I was a local singer, and people were very complimentary. My talent was kind of older than me, so I was always working with older guys and very talented musicians. Um, I, I'd left art college because of economic crisis with my at home, and my parents, both my parents were unemployed, which was a blight on the area that I was living as a kid. Um, and a friend of mine, I'd gone to art college, but it didn't get a grant. So I left college, and the only job I could find where I could keep my hair long was working in a very fashionable boutique in a town called Redcar, and the boutique was called Gentry, which and I think it's a hairdresser's now. But I loved singing as a vehicle of expression. I truly loved it. And I was reading Melody Maker in the shop. It was quiet, and a guy came in, and I put the Melody Maker, this music magazine newspaper, down and got up and said, "Can I help you?" And the guy's looking around. He says, "Don't I know you?" I said, "Oh, I don't think so." And he went, "Yes, I do. You're that singer guy, aren't you?" You know, and it was so kind of diminishing, withering, I think, whatever. So anyway, he ended up not buying anything, bastard, not buying anything and leaving. So I was somewhat crestfallen. I walked back to my Melody Maker, and I opened it up to a picture of John Lord, like almost a back view, sitting at his organ, and underneath it said, "Deep Purple still haven't found a singer. They are considering unknowns." I closed it, got up, walked out of the shop, locked it up, went round to a public phone box and called a dear friend of mine called Roger Barker, who was like a kind of local manager for me, and he also was the guy who booked all the acts at Redcar Jazz Club, our amazing local musical venue. And first off, he laughed, and he went, "You're serious, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, yeah." He said, "Okay, well, call me back at 6 o'clock, and I'll give the Deep Purple office a call and see what they say." So I called him back at 6 o'clock. He said, They want a picture and a tape." And I went, "Oh, God." The only tape I had was like a demo tape, and I was kind of drunk. And I borrowed a picture of myself as a Boy Scout, because I didn't have any pictures, off my mother's mantelpiece, swearing to my mother I would ensure the safe return of the picture of me, saluting Boy Scout fashion. So we sent this off, and I pretty much gave up. And then I got a message to call Roger, and he goes, "You're not going to believe this. You've got an audition." And it was like, huh? So part of me knew if I had an opportunity to actually go down an audition for Deep Purple, I'd have a chance in some perverse way. And so Roger, bless his heart, he set it up and drove me down to London for this audition. And what had happened was that each member of Purple or their assistants were coming into the Purple offices at 25 Newman Street in London West 1, and each of them picking up tapes, cassettes, albums, whatever, floor to ceiling of people after the job, and each one would take a bunch home and review them and stuff. And Ian Pace, the drummer with Purple, he was the one who picked up this batch of tapes that had my dreadful letter, "Dear Deep Purple," the photograph of me as a Boy Scout, and this drunken tape. And Ian told me later, he called Richie Blackmore and said, "I've found somebody really interesting. He's obviously got a sense of humor, but he's got a really good tone. He's rat-ass drunk, but I think he might be worth us having a look at." Which is astonishing to think back on how all of these very amateur elements fell into place for such a gig of such magnitude. And it was my destiny, obviously. And I had the pleasure, of course, of being able to thank John and Ian, who actually joined me in the early Whitesnake and helped me establish Whitesnake as an international band. But I'd been able to thank all of the guys, Glenn Hughes and I, or Glies. Glenn Hughes and I communicate almost daily. So I've been able to express my gratitude to all of those guys for an incredibly courageous decision to give a completely unknown, unrecorded, sober at least, musician, singer, such a golden opportunity in starting me on this amazing journey. And of course, ultimately, after the tragic loss of John Lord, that opened my heart to reach out to Ritchie Blackmore, and so I could thank him personally after 30 years of not so pleasant energy between us.